What is this? What is Mr. here in my garage doing lately? I thought he fell off a long time ago.
Here in my garage, I've been sued for $100 million Ponzi scheme. Yeah, the Here in My Garage guy, Tai Lopez, who essentially is one of the OG financial gurus on YouTube, is now being sued for allegedly running a
I remember everybody making fun of him back in like 2015, I think it was.
$100 million Ponzi scheme. That's right, everyone's favorite Corsa and Lamborghini owner has now been exposed for what most people already assumed, that he isn't that business savvy as he portrays himself as. Because on Monday of last week, the SEC accused Tai Lopez and his partner Alex Mayer of defrauding investors out of approximately $112 million.
Easy clap.
Through their holding company called Rev.
Easy
No,
clap.
use your brain. They don't teach us in school financial literacy.
Yeah, I never learned anything about running a Ponzi in school. I mean, if only he had some knowledge from his bookshelf to teach him that running a Ponzi was a terrible idea, allegedly.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things?
Knowledge.
I've
Classic. Absolute banger.
always thought that that video was funny, but it's kind of funnier now. Also, side note, I'm pretty sure this is one of the most profitable YouTube
How
ads
are you gonna pay off the tax fraud and the Ponzi scheme frauding with your knowledge?
ever. But that might also just be a claim from him, so now I'm a little bit unsure. But clearly, this guy has been on the internet for a while, peddling his courses that range from things like helping you to get fit or build an AI business to starting an Amish homestead.
Okay.
I'm not joking. The
Amish homestead.
guy who lives in a $100 million mansion with power is teaching people or selling courses on teaching people how to build an Amish homestead. Moving on, Tai markets himself as an e-commerce savant who can help you buy your own Lambo and plenty of bookshelves to store your knowledge. Build multiple income streams, and then you can just find the woman of your dreams, all because you bought one of Tai's many courses and gave him all your personal information and how much money you have in your bank account.
Wait, why is that relevant when I'm buying a product? If I'm buying something from Amazon, do they have to know how much income I have? And my liquid net worth? Oh my god. What?
I'm not joking. That's going to be a theme with this video. There's going to be a lot of things that I say that sound wild, but no, they just happened.
If you're an accredited investor with more than $1 million in investable liquid assets and you want to co-invest with Tai and me, click on the link below. We want to talk to you.
Yeah,
While most people who crossed paths with Tai
there.
saw him for what he was, a meme, there was still tons of people ready to buy his courses online and help him maintain that image of growing success. Unfortunately for him, though, everything came crashing down recently, like I mentioned earlier, because the SEC sued him for defrauding investors out of over $100 million.
Funny.
And the claims on this complaint are just crazy, even for someone who's known for being misleading, but at least he'll have some time to consume some more knowledge now. Maybe he'll learn to, allegedly, not run any more Ponzi schemes. But this story starts back nearly at the end of 2019, when Tai and his business partner Alex launched their holding company called Retail E-commerce Ventures. The plan was...
People are so easily influenced, man. It's just like he has no inherent value and people just knew him from the meme. But somehow he managed to capture that and actually scammed people out of money. Man, I need to start scamming. I need to get on that. Here in my garage, in my Lamborghini.
To buy up distressed retail companies with brand name recognition and relaunch them as e-commerce platforms.
He is the co-founder of Retail E-commerce Ventures, which has been buying distressed, well-known brick-and-mortar brands to turn them into hopefully successful e-retail businesses.
Some of these dying brands include companies like Dress Bomb, Pier 1, Steinmart, and Radio Shack. I feel like Radio Shack is the most prominent one out of all of those. And I mean, if you go to Radio Shack today, it just looks like they're straight up just drop shipping a bunch of very cheap Chinese electronics. Yeah, dude, they got the knockoff LED AirPods here. Let's go. Radio Shack, ladies and gentlemen. Tai Lopez.
What is that?
Knowledge. That's kind of depressing, though. To
knowledge and drop shipping. To be fair, Amazon does it too. Yeah.
Raise a bunch of money to buy RadioShack.com so you can sell Temu AirPods. Come on. Now, I'm not 100% sure they came up with this idea in the wake of the dropshipping boom and were unaware of what the future held in the world, but the relevant period stated in the complaint from April 2020 to November of 2022. So basically during COVID, which makes sense since tons of brick and mortar stores were struggling due to the lockdown, while many online retailers saw a boom in their business. The part that makes me feel a little bit more fishy though is Tai and Alex were seeking outside investors with tons of money to help foot the bills for these well-known companies, in exchange for things like equity and interest rates that seem too good to be true.
The opportunity is simple. You put money into one of my brands as a promissory note, you get a
Chat, you give me money, I get money, I get Lamborghini. You get nothing, me Lamborghini. Oh.
monthly payment that comes out to between 10 and 15% annual fixed income. And at the end of the promissory note term, you get all your money back.
And he did so by definitely crowdsourcing it by posting ads like this on Instagram. Did you realize for every $300,000 invested in our preferred dividends, we will send you $60,000 a year in monthly payments, only for accredited investors.
Something doesn't seem right here. Every 300K, we will give you 60K back in monthly payments. Yeah. Passive income? Yeah, for sure. I totally buy that they'll make every single one.
Monthly payments,
Every
only
month.
for accredited investors. Return not guaranteed. Invest at your own risk. This is not an offer. Click below. Yeah, apparently the dividends for $60,000 for every $300,000 invested allegedly turned all of this into a Ponzi so they could keep up paying the first investors those dividend checks, because that's a crazy dividend. 20% dividend return. That is just outrageous. And well, now we know, since the SEC's suit alleges that between 2020 and 2022, Tai Lopez made material misrepresentations to hundreds of investors about bankrupt retailers they had acquired. You know, like saying their portfolio companies were on fire and the cash flow is strong, despite Dress Barn experiencing losses of nearly 13 point.
This is what V Shoujo did. They kept saying how wonderful and how well they're doing, and then the investors were like, wait a minute, where's the cash flow? And they're like, oh, it's coming, don't worry. Yeah, just trust us. We've made a lot of money, but the expenses they leave out, or whatever they take out for themselves.
$3 million and $10.7 million for 2020 and 2021, respectively. And I mean, all it takes is one look at Rev's website and you can see just how much they were branding these ventures as huge successes, even though they were allegedly aware that they were in massive financial trouble. Seriously, the site is just full of articles calling them e-commerce powerhouses and flowery bios detailing once bankrupt companies now supposedly resurrected by Rev. Plus, Tai was documenting all of these acquisitions as huge money moves on his social media and trying to entice more investors.
I just bought Radio Shack. I didn't even know Radio Shack was still relevant. How do you dupe investors into thinking that it's a good idea for you to buy Radio Shack? I thought they died in like 2013 or something.
Each new opportunity. But what Tai wasn't telling his social media that while some of the Rev retailer brands generated revenue, none of them generated any profits. So these dividends he promised weren't coming from revenue generated from the businesses like he advertised. In fact, according to the complaint, they resorted to using a combination of loans from outside lenders, merchant cash advances, money raised from new existing investors, and transfers from other portfolio companies to cover obligations. Like that insane 20%
money,
dividend.
basically.
And the SEC alleges that at least $5.9 million of these returns paid to investors were actually Ponzi-like payments funded by other investors, as opposed to
what they did with, so Ponzi schemes, essentially what V Shoujo did as well, with how they were paying talents with other people's, with other talents' money that they owed them, and then keeping them back and pushing it back and not giving them their payment that they deserve. They were doing that as well. It's the same kind of principle. The trickle down of the flow of money, basically, as soon as you acquire enough money to pay the other person, you just shuffle it around so that you can keep trickling it down.
To the company's
Yeah,
profits.
he loaned off
Meaning
to pay
these
investors,
business
yeah.
gurus
You borrow,
were
you
taking
borrow,
on
you
new
borrow.
investor money to pay other
Smart.
investors that
Smart,
have invested
smart,
with them before. They allegedly started transferring millions of dollars in funds between businesses to cover their asses as early as November of 2020, mere months after their inception. At this point, they were basically slapping a band-aid over the issue and probably just hoping that eventually one of these brands they resurrected from the dead would suddenly boom and save them from ever facing any real consequences.
But you're buying terrible and you're not investing into making it better. You're not... I don't know why I'm even saying this. I feel like even a fucking toddler could figure this out.
Or maybe they were just terrible at managing money, because the federal regulatory agency also claims that Mayer and Lopez allocated $16 million worth of investments for their own use, according to the filing. So,
how much? 16 million? Not just like 1 million. They needed 8 million between each other. What do you even need $8 million for? I don't even know what I'd fucking do with that kind of money.
Worth of investments for their own use, according to the filing. So yeah, on top of using their investors' money to pay out other investors, which by the way is the definition of a Ponzi scheme, they're also allegedly funding their own lavish lifestyles with this money. I imagine it's really hard to sell success to others if it looks like your financial situation is declining. So I would like to say that Tai has successfully managed to place himself into the guru trap, because if you're not constantly upgrading and getting richer and richer, or appearing to be richer and richer, your method's not working. Then it's going to be harder for you to sell courses. So you just gotta have to up the stakes and keep playing the charade, like renting $100 million mansion, apparently. Because let's be real.
Which works, by the way, because people are stupid. They're like, oh, well, a rich person wouldn't be in a... if a rich person was lying about their money, they wouldn't be in like a rented mansion. Yeah, because they're expensive. Like, this is a real one.
The monthly payments on that leased $100 million mansion could not be cheap. So not only were they lying to investors about the potentials of these opportunities, they were also skimming money for themselves.
Remember, the world does not reward overly shy people. Get out of the house, come to the mastermind, come to the party. You will make more money by spending at least 10% of your month. That's just 3 days getting around people that are doing better than you, that have different ideas. You can do exchange, you can do collabs. So come to my party and mastermind. I got one coming up.
But I've focused a lot on Tai so far when there's two other named in the lawsuit. Alex Mayer, who I've mentioned before, and Alex Rose Birkenrode, the COO of Rev. And get this, Tai's cousin. Okay.
Yes! Shuffling money between families and getting families involved. I love that! Yes!
So Alex Mayer is advertised on the Rev site and by Tai as a NASA scientist with a PhD and a successful businessman who sold his dating app Zeusk for $300 million, which does make him sound like someone who might actually know what he's talking about. And for being a NASA scientist, his LinkedIn shows that he actually worked for a company called QSS Group, who were only contracted by NASA. So technically he could say he was one, but he didn't directly work for NASA.
He also claims in his...
I remember when I played WoW Classic, there was a guy that kept convincing the entire guild that he worked for NASA, and then it came out that he was just like a janitor that cleaned toilets there. So it's like, technically he worked for NASA, but he like always exaggerated it and said like, oh, I work there every day. Like I come home and I play Classic WoW, and then it turns out he's a janitor. No hating to janitors though, but like, you wouldn't frame it in that way, right? Like you would say, oh, I work at NASA, but like I work as a janitor, which is awesome. Wow, you clean toilets. Awesome. Great work. But like, you're not like a NASA like scientist, or like you shouldn't frame it in that way. You know what I'm saying? Technically true. No, he did say the truth, but he always framed it like he worked there like as a scientist or something. Same thing here. I don't know why they did that. I wouldn't be embarrassed if I cleaned toilets at NASA's. I think that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, what?
To be a former NASA scientist, but looking at his LinkedIn, he never actually worked for NASA. He instead worked for the QSS Group, a small engineering company that was a contractor for NASA. So while he did work on NASA in a sense, he was never an employee there.
But who knows? I guess Tai and Alex just bonded over their apparent shared love of stretching the truth. Oh, and that $300 million sale of Zeusk, that happened in 2019, and apparently Alex left the company 5 years prior in 2014. So again, it sounds good when you read it and probably made potential investors feel a little bit better about handing over large chunks of cash, but ultimately it doesn't really seem to be very truthful. It's like, sure, you might have been a part of founding that company, but you can't really say you sold it for $300 million if you bailed 5 years before the sale.
Yeah.
Seemingly, his most significant accomplishment is co-founding dating website Zeusk and selling it for $298 million. He co-founded Zeusk in 2007 and stayed there as
I've never
co-CEO
heard of
until
this.
2014, but it's claimed that he sold it
Is
for...
it a dating website? Singles worldwide and 3 million messages daily. Is it a dating website?
2014, but it's claimed that he sold
Really
it for
old?
$298 million
idea.
is quite misleading. Zeusk was sold in 2019, a full 5 years after Mayer left the company, so he can't take credit for the sale as he had no involvement at the company at the time. Yet on his bio, he claims that he was the one who sold it for $298 million.
But according to the complaint, Alex has no problem lying to investors because even after 2 years of bleeding money, Alex still allegedly had the balls to email investors in 2022 and ask for even more money, claiming that they had been dealt a strong hand with the ace brands that they have acquired over the last couple of years. Because I guess losing tens of millions of dollars is now being considered a strong hand. And for Ty's cousin, Maya, she's got less than an honest bio on her own on the Rev site that claims that she has over 10 years of experience managing multi-million-dollar companies.
This reminds me of when millennials lie on their resume to get a job, and they're kind of like twisting the truth so that they can get it. Except you're actually trying to get a job. This is like, I'm trying to fleece money out of investors by making it look like I know what I'm talking about. Sounds like Silicon Valley business model, but apply it to brick and mortar stores. But I think YouTube only recently started making money. Twitter had never money, and in the past, I think Twitch still operates at a loss. I'm not even talking about like actual companies like Twitch where they're operating on a loss, and also Kick.com operating on a loss. And being funded by bigger corporations, because this isn't even true. They're just operating on a loss period, and they're not using the money to reinvest into the firm to make it better. It's just bad all around, because if you could argue that Twitch is still doing fine because Amazon makes so much money that it trickles down to Twitch being able to stay afloat and not get, like, you know, going under. Same with Kick being a stake subsidiary, because you're just funneling money down. And even though you're operating on a loss, you're still staying afloat because it doesn't really matter, because you're just putting a tiny little dent into the top part, into the top company. Or the parent company, excuse me. Yeah.
But unfortunately, Birkenrode's only alleged professional experience was a substitute preschool teacher, a promoter at a radio station, and an assistant to her cousin Lopez in his online education company, according to the complaint. Everything about this company seems to have been a little bit... No, it's just straight up fraudulent from the jump. Bogus bios, flimsy promises, and just inflated success stories that help them pull the wool over investors' eyes for years. And honestly, some people saw this coming. Because what has been interesting to me about this whole thing is seeing a lot of people coming out to defend Tai.
Yo, why is it stuttering? Hold on, sorry. Literally, it stopped moving.
From the jump. Bogus bios, flimsy promises, and just inflated success stories that help them pull the wool over investors' eyes for years. And honestly, some people saw this coming. Because what has been interesting to me about this whole thing is seeing a lot of people coming out to defend Tai and his crew. And I mean, that's just kind of stupid, because hey, if Tai ran a business and it failed, and he was honest with investors the entire time, that would be fine. Like, would he get clowned on by the internet? Yeah. Probably. But that's business. Sometimes they fail. Actually, oftentimes. Apparently, 20% of businesses fail within the first year, and nearly 50% fail.
It's even higher for restaurants. Isn't it like 60% failure rate? Restaurants are really bad for investment. Yeah, fun fact, do not open up anything except maybe franchises, and even franchises have a chance to fail because of a myriad of reasons. Yeah. Don't, I would not be inclined to do that.
Within 5 years. So if the company just simply failed, you lost a bunch of investors, accredited investors' money, and then you closed doors and went, well, we tried our best. That wouldn't have been that bad because those investors knew the risk. And from what I can tell, he only raised money from accredited investors. It's not like they launched a crypto coin and shilled it to normal everyday people, right? I'm actually double checking now. Oh no, they did.
Of course they did. Why would you not double dip, man? Easy clap.
Scratch that. Okay, so to try to land my point here. So if they didn't do that and only lost accredited investors' funds, it wouldn't be as big of a deal because that's business, that's investing. Obviously, buying companies that have already gone bankrupt, that's extremely risky, and there's a track record there of them failing previously. And then obviously the returns were just outrageous. So that's definitely a extremely risky investment with allegedly some potential upside there. That didn't pan out. But hey, there'll definitely be a whole lot more to this story, so feel free to subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I can't believe Tai Lopez, the guy, Ferrari in my garage, the Lamborghini in my garage, man. That guy... and then again, I shouldn't be surprised because I think that self-help books and all those ones, there are good self-help books and ones that actually talk about personal experiences that are very useful for encouraging people to get better. But then there's people who have self-help books that are just scams. They're like, buy this book and then buy my $20,000 course that makes you go and work out at the gym and also makes your pee-pee bigger. That's what Tai Lopez was advertising. That's why he went viral, because his stupid video was so dumb and people actually bought into it.